So I'm here today to talk to you about the law of supply. The law of supply looks at things from a producer's point of view. So in the law of demand, we're thinking about things from a consumer point of view. Law of supply, we think about it as a producer. And the number one concern of a producer is profit. So keep in mind, as we look through all of this stuff, you need to look at it through a lens of profit. So first of all, the definition of supply, or I should say supply, illustrates all possible quantities of goods and services that producers are willing to sell at every price. And there's a direct relationship between quantity and price. So, unlike demand, which has an inverse relationship, within supply, the higher the prices, the more that producers will be willing to sell. Will they be able to sell them at every price? No, because consumers, of course, want low prices. But right now, we're just looking at things from the business owner's point of view. So we've got price and quantity again. This time they're in a direct relationship. So here's what a supply curve looks like. Notice you've got price on your y-axis, quantity on your x-axis. This time the curve is sloped in the opposite direction because of that direct relationship. As price goes up, quantity supplied goes up as well. All right, so there are just 3 supply shifters. So we had rep, the 5 demand shifters in the law of demand. In supply, there are just 3. So the first one is the marginal cost of production. Cost of production are literally what it sounds like, how much it costs to make something. And the marginal cost would be a change in the cost of production. So if the cost of production change, that can shift supply. It can happen because of changes in technology. For example, at the bottom of the screen, you see a DVD player. It got a lot less expensive to make DVD players as we went through time, and so the supply of those went up because the cost of production went down. Today, of course, they're being outmoded by streaming services, and so technology is causing a change in the supply of DVD players all over again. Another way that the cost of production can change is if there's a change in the cost of resources. So things like gasoline. You see BP at the bottom of the screen. Pretty much every product has transportation costs. And so if gas prices change, that can change the cost of production. If it gets less expensive for you to do business, you're going to produce more. So supply will go up. If it gets more expensive for you to do business, you're going to produce less, and so supply will go down. So marginal cost of production. Second determinant of supply or supply shifter are producer expectations. This is the idea that current supply or supply today is based on what we expect future price to be. This was the same concept as expectations in demand, but this time it's looking at it from a producer's point of view. So if they expect future prices to go up, they may hold back on some of their supply now so they can release it later at a higher price. The opposite is also true. Last determinant of supply is pretty common sense. It's the number of sellers. So when new businesses enter a market, the supply will increase. The opposite is also true. At the bottom of the screen, you see a number of places that all sell gourmet cups of coffee. Over the last 20 years, the only one that sold coffee 20 years ago in Elkhart County was the Daily Grind. It's been around that long. The other 3 didn't exist, or at least Starbucks and Panera didn't exist. McCafe, McDonald's wasn't making gourmet coffee 20 years ago. So because we've got these new sellers of gourmet coffee, our supply has increased. Our supply of gourmet coffee has increased in Elkhart County over the last 20 years. If the opposite happens, like for example, the supply of DVDs has gone down because we used to have Blockbuster, Family Video, small video stores, all of those have closed. And so now we see a decrease in the supply of DVDs. So altogether, the acronym we're going to use for the 3 supply shifters is MEN. M for the marginal cost of production, E for expectations, N for the number of sellers. So you're going to go ahead and do your supply practice problems. It will look familiar. It has to do with the law of supply, but with the bottled water like we looked at on the other. Remember that there's a direct relationship between price and quantity for supply. And remember that if price changes, quantity supplied or a point on the curve will change. If marginal cost of production, expectations, or number of sellers change, that will shift the entire supply curve. If you've got questions, feel free to call me or text me or shoot me an email, and I'll see you next time you're in class.